Hey guys, welcome to Inside. GrandMA version 2.4 is out today, and as I'm out in the field, I'm not in the studio, I need to improvise a little bit, but I try to provide you with the best information I have, so let's jump right in. All right, so at first, let's have a look at the new resigned recipe editor. So it looks now like this. You can see you have now buttons to add a programmer part, add a standard recipe, or a phaser recipe. I think the most are interested of you in the phaser recipe, so let's start with that. Let's first create a new phaser recipe. So hit the button Add Phaser Recipe. Now select a group like this. Now you have here the option to, let's make it bigger, to go over here and have a pool window laid out here in the recipe editor. Then you can choose a a sheet editor. Or in some cases, you have got a real editor, like for example, for the matrix, you have got the built-in matrix editor right here. So let's first do a selection. Select, for example, group one. You can also do and hit here the edit recipe button and do the old way. So do as you like it. I hit it here, right here. Then I'm going to choose a attribute or a value. For example, I would like to have a dimmer phaser from open to close. Now you can see here I don't need to put in any attributes because they are catched from the preset itself. Now the new one is here. You can now insert a shape. So that means if you go right here and go to the pool, now you can select any shape you want. For example, a ramp up, a snap. We have back the chase, for example, which I come to later. And of course, you can customize your lines if you want. So for this, you click to the curve, and then you have got here the controls as you expected them, but inside the editor. So I think it's quite good because it's much easier to create anything you need. This is step one right here: acceleration, deceleration, transition width, and the value for absolute and relative values, and the same for step two. Like here, you have to transition the width. For example, let's do the width here a little bit smaller and the transition a little bit bigger. So I like this. For example, let's change the speed to 120 BPM. Now I can put a MA tricks directly into here, or I can save it like I do it now as a phaser recipe. The problem is if I save it right here, then we have a selective one. I don't like that. So that's why I'm going one step back by pressing the Oops button. And there is a new function. If you hit the Store button and long press, then you can now choose here on the preset tab, recipe mode, no selection. That means I make save preferences and I hit escape to show you one thing. I have now here a selection, but this selection I need only to visualize it for myself, but I don't like to store it. So that's why I'm using this option recipe mode no selection, and now I can store a phaser recipe. It's just universal, or it's not universal, it's now a real phaser recipe, so to say. Let's clear the programmer. 1, 2, 3. And now I can hit my LED wall, phaser recipe, and now it's working. Let's do one more example with a built-in a matrix. So for example, I say again, add phaser recipe. Let's choose a selection like LED wall. And now I go the other way around. I don't like to use a preset. I would like to use attributes, the normal way, let's so to say. So hit attributes. Now my editor is only showing me the attributes which my selection could have. Press to dimmer. Now let's say absolute value 100 and 0. And now the phaser is working. For this time, I would like to have a shape from the shape pool. Let's say we do a sine 1, 2, like this. And now I would like to add a a matrix right here. Let's say we make a group of 3, a wing of 2, and phase from 0 to 360. Looks quite impressive and quite good. I would like to choose maybe 6 groups, and I have 6 groups. I would also store this as a phaser recipe. So right here, click store, and it's saved. One more example, I'm using the spot grid group. Click right here, and now I have applied this phaser recipe to my fixtures with the matrix which I have set it up earlier in here. You can open this window, and then you can see the items in the matrix better. But I like to have this one closed and use this window. But you can do it as you want. Let me just do this window run like this and make a store command over here. Okay, then we have a new function called NShot. So let's say you would like to have this phaser only applied 1 or 2 times. Then let's do a phaser recipe. Make a selection like the spots. Let's call it shape linear, and I like to work with the presets right here. And this should only be shotted 2 times. So let's say here NShot and put in 2 times. And now I can also store this as a phaser recipe. Okay, let's check it out. LED wall. Hit this button 1, 2, and it's paused. So we have now the NShot availability back. Now let's check out the new adaptive feature. For this, I'm going to create a new phaser recipe. Let's select fixtures 1 through 4. Let's create a group from the selection. So you can easily click here and say new with selection to create a new group with a selection. Let's apply a shape, a chase shape. Say attributes, I would like to use dimmer. And as values, I have 100 and 0. But these are already set it's coming from the shape attribute here, right here. And now the magic is that I have applied adaptive width on coming from the shape chase right here. That means if I'm going to now select a matrix with a phase from 0 through 360, so only one lamp is lighting up at a time. And now let's save this, call it dimmer chase. And the cool thing is now, if I'm going to apply, let's say, for example, 8 fixtures, and hit this button, now only one lamp is lighting at a time, because now the adaptive width is checking the amount of lamps and then adjusting it to the amount of lamps. Okay, now let's do it totally manually. Add phaser recipe. Use the selection with 4 lights. Now apply the attribute dim, absolute 100, and the second step is 0. Then I'm going to make the curve myself. So for example, I can say the transition is 0 and the transition is here also 0. So now we have a kind of snappy one. And now I'm going to apply the adaptive width. Then I set a matrix from 0 through 360. And now I can show you on the curve that we have only 4 lights. So the first step is now applied to a width of 25. And if I'm going to change now the group, for example, let's make a new group with 10 lights. new with selection. And then I'm going to have a look at the curve. And now you can see the width is now only 10%. Bounce phaser. Now we have the bounce back. So let's select the spot grid, for example. So I'm going to make a bounce phaser with these lights. Cleared. Add phaser recipe. Do a selection. In this case, I'm going to use spot grid, group 2. I would like to have a dimmer, and I would like to have the values 100 to 0. You also can do it in the editor if you want. So you can go to curve, and now you can here say the absolute value or the absolute value for the second step. Okay, I would like to have the transition to maybe only 30% and here only to 50%. And I would like to have the first step on a width of only 10. So like a ramp. Now I go to a matrix. Let's say I would like to have 0 through 360 and a wing of 2. And now it's running like this. If I would like to create a bounce, now I have here the new function direction, and this could be set to forward, backward, and alternate. So if I have it set to alternate, you can see now it's bouncing back and forth. Let's adjust the speed a little bit to 140. And as always, that's why I don't like personally the bounce effects. It always looks like it's not in the perfect shape, so you always have to adjust the phase. That's why I always do every bounce with 2 cues. But if you like it, you can have it now. Storing shapes. For example, you have a very, very good phaser set it up, like 100 to 0. And then let's say I do a speed of 120 right here, and phaser step transition of both should be set to 0, and of the second step it should be like 20, and on the first step I'm going to create it with only the 10. So I have this one set it up. Let's check it on a grouping of 4 with a wing of 2 like this. And say, okay, this is a really, really great phaser. I would like to create a shape from this. So for this, I would like to save that behavior here to a shape. Let's go to an empty shape pool item like this and just do a store. And boom, you're done. You can now, for example, use your LED wall and apply this shape. And this shape is now applied to the fixtures. So this is a great way to store your shapes you have created with a normal phaser workflow and then apply it back to your phaser. So a very, very cool function, which I absolutely like in the version 2.4, is the following. Let's say you have created a key lighting. This is the singer 1 here on my stage. So I've got 2 lamps lighting up here on the singer. And I would like to save this in a sequence on a fader. So now I'm going to use a recipe. So let's click to add standard recipe, choose the preset and assign it right here. And I don't like to have any selection. I'm going to use it from the preset. So let's do the new from value trick and then store it to a new sequence. Let's select a new sequence. Let's clear the programmer and hit the go button. And now I'm inside the rehearsal. And these are the lamps 1 and 2. Now I see light 2 is not working because I don't like the angle. So let's remove the light 2 and put, for example, light 5 into it. Then I'm going to hit spot 5, add spot 2 to grab all the values. Let's correct the pan and tilt values. Then store it to this preset, like a merge. And now I'm going to remove the fixture 2 from the preset. So for example, with the edit command of fixture 2, please update. Okay. And now I don't need to do any changes on the sequence 4 because it's always grabbing the selection from the preset. So this is really, really great. New preset workflow. For example, I have my spotlights, let's say 1 through 8, and I'm going to create some colors. What I like is to use the global preset mode. So I'm going to create, let's say, color white and color red and color blue, for example. So now I would like to use these colors here with my washes, but they are stored as global, so I really can't reach them. But with the new feature, you can. What I can say now is I would like to have these values in the preset grabbed even if this is a global one, so not for the washers. How to do that? Let's say add preset 4.14, and now you can use another grab mode, for example, universal. And even if it's stored global, you can call it universal. This is very, very helpful if you need to save some time out in the field. A quick one, we have now expanded timecode slots. If I have a look to the pools, you have now 16 timecode slots instead of 8. And for the guys who didn't know it, you can send out timecode from the console. So you can say SMPTE mode, for example, is out, or MIDI timecode mode is out. And here I have used slot 1. So that means if I'm going to grab slot 1, it's in this case, let's say we start at 0, hit the go button, and then press to slot 1. Now the timecode slot is generated by the GrandMA, and it's now leaving the console from the SMPTE and the MIDI timecode slot. The next one is the new preview feature. So the preview is now really advanced. Let's have a quick look into it. For example, let's say I have 3 sequences. Fixture 1, open in straight front. This is the first sequence. Fixture 2, open in red, straight front, second sequence, and the next fixture in green, open at this position. Now I would like to know how the sequence 5, 6, and 7 are looking together without playing them back because I'm live in the show. Now I can say preview, hit the button sequence 5, and now I can see the output of sequence 5. Let's create a preview quickie right here. Preview. Oops, it previews. I would like to have preview. Preview. So now let's click on sequence 6. I now see sequence 6. This behavior is because the auto start is set to single. But what I can do is to choose multi. And now let's say preview 5. And I can add now this sequence to my already playbacked sequence in the preview mode. And let's do it the same for sequence 7. So now I can really have a great preview just from my sequences, or even if I would like to add some lamps in the preview, like a preview programmer. How can I remove a now playback sequence in the preview? I can say preview off sequence 5, preview off sequence 7, for example. How to exit the preview? let's say preview off, please. Or I can double press to preview like this and double press again to leave it. One more thing in preview, let's say I have these lamps in my programmer and I would like to add this now to my preview. So let's click preview twice to enter the preview mode. Then I have the button here, copy programmer. Now I'm going to copy the original programmer into my preview. I can now clear my normal programmer and it's still inside this preview. Also, another great function is if I have some running playbacks, like let's say we go this one and we go this one. And now I would like to have all my running playbacks in my preview. Then I can say, let's enter the preview mode, copy playbacks. And now all the playbacks currently running are now copied into the previous state. Let's switch off the original playbacks and the preview mode again, and you can see these are still there. To fully clear the preview environment, you can still click this button, clear preview environment, and then the preview is fully off. And then to leave it, let's press double click preview, or let's say off, preview off, and then please. Also, another great feature, which I like, is this function. For example, you're going to make dimmer on, let's say red, then you're going to focus the lamps like this. And now you would like to save everything but without the dimmer. The way that most people are going to do is, let's say off dimmer, but then you can't see your lights anymore. But I would like to off the dimmer, but only the selection. And this is a new feature. You can press the MA button and then you can press the off button. And this is a new feature called Deactivate. And now I can press the dimmer, and now it's the same as you press twice the clear button, but just only for the dimmer. So you can still see it, but you're not storing it. So this is a really great feature. For example, if you're going to create a macro where you need to deactivate any attribute, but you can't use any filter. Sometimes you would like to program very accurate, and let's say I would like to start my new song at sequence 276. So you also always need to store sequence 276, 277, 278, because if you don't do that, it's stored on the next free and empty slot. But for this, there's another solution. Let's undo everything. You can go to the sequence and there's a new button, first index. So for example, you would like to start your new sequences at sequence 276. Do this first index at 276. And now let's store the first sequence, the second sequence, the third sequence. And you can see it's now starting at this item. And it's also shown up here in a very small and white font. This is also possible for a preset. So for example, you would like to now create some presets, and starting by position preset 33, then you can say, let's do the first index at 33. And now let's click store preset 2, please. Store preset 2, store preset 2. Now I've created some position presets starting at 33, 34, 35.